Hello, Ian. Thank you for joining me today. And we're going to be discussing your Research Wales Innovation Funded project, which I'm so excited to learn more about.
Yeah, no problem. So this is really pulling together efforts from a large team that have been involved in developing energy efficient buildings, and really about how they can communicate that to new audiences. So there's a lot of background research and some demonstrations of buildings that work well, and we want to get the message out to younger people, how they can understand that and how they can get involved in developing their own.
That sounds brilliant. And how do you feel like your project is helping impact the wider and external
I
community?
think for this, it's really about that stage where we've got a lot of the fundamental knowledge now. We've got a lot of the experience of managing these things, and now it's about how we reach that wider audience. So that's what this project is really about, is getting that message out there and engaging a wider community and ultimately the community that are going to be using these things for the longest, really, which is why we focused on young people. The original sort of projects around so there's this project called Specific, which develops active buildings, and that's always worked really closely with industry. It's always tried to give confidence and to de-risk investment into renewables so that we can create these sort of active buildings that have a lower impact. They require less energy, they produce energy, and these are quite topical things at the moment. Where it impacts business growth is, of course, there has to be a demand for these sorts of things. At times when energy costs are rising, these are things that are impacting a lot of people. This is our opportunity to show what can be done, which will drive demand for businesses that operate in that area. So in this particular project, we've been working with schools and young people so that we can translate. But within the overall sort of specific project, there's a number of industrial partners as well. Our key anchor partners would include people like Tata Steel, because a lot of these buildings are steel intensive. BIPV Co, who develop solar panels, a little bit like the ones that you can see behind me on a building in India, and NSG, also, which is a glass manufacturer. People would know them as Pilkington probably. But from there's a whole range of companies that have been involved in developing buildings and building materials. But as I say, for this particular project, we're really looking at end users such as schools, actually civic actors as well. Welsh Government and Neath Talbot, County Borough Council, are really important to us. Social housing organisations, people like Pobble, are also people that we work quite closely with.
Affecting so many people then in the wider community. That's brilliant. And why is there a demand for this research area?
I think there's a good few reasons. I mean, at the moment it's incredibly topical because we're seeing energy prices rise. But I think wider than that, I think there's a general recognition that we are in a climate emergency, and everything that we do needs to be done in the most sustainable way. So if we can generate energy on site, then that is fantastic. If we can use it locally and generate it renewably. But the number one take home from all of this is that we start with what we call a fabric first approach. So you look at the building, you make sure that the building's operating as efficiently as it possibly can. You reduce losses and you look for inefficiencies. And those are things that everybody can do. Targeting young people moves into their families as well. So, they can be the champions, they can take these messages home, but also they'll sit with them as they develop themselves as well.
That's brilliant. And what has the Research Wales Innovation Fund really let you achieve? What has that specifically contributed to?
In this case, it is that broadening of audience. So I mean, these are things that we wanted to do. We've always wanted to get this message out there for a number of reasons. And I think the Research Wales Innovation Fund project has just given us resource to give it the push that it needs to create that extra emphasis. And I have to stress, my colleagues in specific team are the ones who've done this. I think that the project has just enabled them to deliver that.
Brilliant. So it's also helped in creating the tool, and I really want to know more about what this tool is.
Well, the tool is freely available online, so it's hosted on the specific website, and the aim of it is to get people aged sort of 11 to 14 into the process of how they would design active buildings. It's an adaptation of a series of freely available tools targeted at the construction industry. But it's delivered in a way that provokes thought amongst that sort of 11 to 14 age group.
Do you feel like that's such an important area to focus on, especially in today's climate?
I think globally we face a huge challenge. The drive towards net zero is going to effectively change everything, and how we interact with our space, how we interact with energy, how we are mindful of our own consumption, and the responsibility that we have to take for that needs to be embedded into everything that we do. And that starts at an early age. Particularly, I think in Wales as well, we're in a good place for this because with the new curriculum for Wales, there is the four purposes of that focus on effectively creating responsible citizens. We're aligned to the well-being of future generations, so we're looking ahead, not backwards.
What types of people will be benefiting from this tool?
Hopefully, as many as possible. What we're really keen on is getting a collection of schools involved, so that the wide demographic of people across Wales and potentially beyond can access this and really build that into their education, so that they're thinking along those lines. That leads on to societal benefits. So, particular focus, I think, on areas where there are socioeconomic challenges, because they're the people that are probably going to gain the most from thinking about their energy efficiency and from thinking about what they can do to limit crippling energy bills whilst also contributing positively to the environment. So I think, again, housing association groups critical, because that's where we can have a real change on their lives as well as on the environment.
For all the Welsh small businesses watching today, how can they get support from this?
Wherever there are innovations, we have to have a supply chain to deliver against them. So yes, there's a focus on how we make things more efficient, but there will inevitably, in doing that, it's about swap into more efficient technology. So if you take lighting, for example, swap into LEDs, thinking about what the future of heating is going to look like. These create gaps, and it's those gaps where our local supply chain can develop new solutions and can move into emerging markets. And I think that's critical for all of us.
Swansea University has a declared climate policy and a sustainability policy, which is reviewed, I think, in a few months, just to ensure that they are helping address global sustainability challenges. How do you feel, and why do you feel like it's important for universities to focus on this area, which impacts the local, national, and global environment?
We have to lead the way. We're in an interesting place because we are innovators. It's what we try and do, but we're also a community. We often talk about the community, and I think sometimes we need to reflect on that and think, well, who are the community? Because we're part of that community. We're a large organization within our local community. We're a large employer. We're a large energy user. So as we do these things, we can learn, got that innovation ethos. We can help to de-risk technologies and ideas by trying them in a safe environment. We're a lot of people, 20 plus thousand students with associated staff, lots of accommodation, lots of different types of activities. ranging from, you know, sort of general teaching spaces to pilot commercial scale in certain cases. So we have a really complex ecosystem ourselves, and we can learn a lot and we can share our knowledge locally, but also for us to remember we are part of that community. It's not the community, it's our community.